Hey, so today we're going to talk about how to get your offer accepted in this extremely competitive real estate market with the inventory shortages and everything else that's going on out there. It's very important to have these 5 essential tips that will hopefully get your offer accepted in these bidding wars. The first and foremost is you want to get with your lender if you are a finance buyer and make sure that you get them all the documentation that's needed so that they can get you fully underwritten, approved, go through all of your loan options as well as any down payment assistance programs that you might be eligible for. The down payment assistance programs right now are very essential. Even if you think you may not need a down payment assistance program, you may be able to use that rather than your own cash so that you can save your cash to come in with a stronger offer and pay above and beyond what the property is actually worth so that you can actually win some of these bidding wars as a finance buyer.
Yes, and I'm Angela Adams. I am the listing specialist for the Adams team. So we tend to see we have multiple offers on almost every listing as long as it's priced properly. And it is imperative that the buyer is not only pre-qualified. Pre-qualifications really are garbage. We need a pre-approval, knowing that the lender has truly vetted through the buyer's qualifications. So knowing that they've been pre-approved and from the listing side, us calling to discuss the client situation with the lender, knowing that they've got a stable job, credit's good, really gives us some reassurance when we're discussing those offers with the seller and helping guide them on picking what's the best offer for them.
Absolutely. And then after speaking with your lender, it's imperative to circle back with your real estate agent, even before going out and having what we call a strategy session. Really sit down, learn the market, know what the market trends are, what is inventory looking like in your price range, how fast are homes moving and selling, and then also come up with a game plan as far as what are your offer terms going to look like once you start submitting offers. It's vitally important to know all of this going in so that once you identify a property, you're ready to go. You write it up right away, and speed to offer is critically important right now. If it takes you a day or two to sit around and come up with that strategy after you identified a property, you may be dealing with a dozen extra offers that wouldn't have been on the table should you have acted fast.
Absolutely. And then at that point, when you've got so many other offers that the seller's looking at, for the most part, they're going to be looking at really what is the highest and best, if you will, and easiest to close and minimize any lost time on the market and maximize their net proceeds that they're going to walk away with.
Yeah, so being vitally prepared, option number 1. Point number 2 is going to be your relationship with your buyer's agent and your listing agent. Most people undervalue relationships, and in today's market, it's not just about dollars and cents. It's about giving the listing agent, who is going to convey your offer to the seller, the sense that you guys are going to work as a team to get to the finish line and actually close the deal. If you're offering $1 million on a $300,000 house and you can't close it, it really means nothing other than you've wasted everyone's time. So reaching out, even before you even go out on the showing, finding out what's important to the seller from the listing agent as a buyer's agent, having an experienced buyer's agent that will reach out, figure out what's important to the seller. Is there a certain close of escrow that's important? Do they need a rent back? What other terms in the contract will make your offer stand out amongst the other dozen, 20 offers, whatever the case may be?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very common because a majority of sellers have a good amount of appreciation that they've gained in their home, and they need to sell the home and take that money to buy their next place. So knowing that the loan is solid, we can get the deal done, and if we can communicate that to the buyer's agent to say, hey, these are the things that we really need to make my seller feel comfortable, that is tremendous. The other thing that we're really seeing that helps is because they're having to sell the home, take the money out to buy the next place, if the buyer has the ability to allow any form of a rent back type situation, and ideally at no cost to the seller, that is in a perfect world, then that really helps also. So depending on your loan situation and the amount of time that you need to, that the buyer needs to be able to move into the home, all those things come into play. But those are
Yeah, I feel like there's a huge spectrum that could be happening on the seller side that the buyer could be completely oblivious to, unless the buyer's agent is reaching out and having these conversations. Maybe the seller was already in escrow with another buyer, and then they went and got an escrow on another property, and then their deal fell apart, and now they're supposed to be closing on another deal in 2 or 3 weeks. That's critical to know, because now you want to write it up with a fast close, so that the seller could get their money and move it onto another property. Maybe the seller is moving into a new build that's not going to be ready for 6 months, so a longer escrow with a rent back would actually be preferred. But without having that conversation and building that rapport with the listing agent, you're just throwing darts, in the dark. You have no idea what's going on. So have a buyer's agent that's going to reach out and start building that relationship. Then even further past that, that's just on your first phone call before you even go out on the showing. You're finding out, do you have offers and what's the seller's situation. After you go out on the showing, hey, maybe they've gotten offers since the first conversation. Follow up again. Find out if anything has changed since your last conversation. Hey, my buyer loved your property. We're going to submit an offer. I just wanted to see if anything's changed since then. Do you have any more offers? Can you tell me kind of where we need to be at, or again, any other terms if anything's changed since our first conversation? Then go draft the offers, and we'll go over some terms here in a moment that'll help you there as well. But then, follow up constantly. Submit the offer, follow up again. When are you presenting? This is critically important to find out, so that, if you're going to present in an hour, or are you presenting in 3 days? Because in the seller's market right now, they control when they're going to present. They could say, I'm going to sit on it for 3 days, and the buyer can either rescind their offer or let it expire, or they can sit back and let the seller do their thing and then try to make it as strong as possible and stay in the game. But if it's going to be 3 days out, you can't just submit an offer and then just sit back and not know what's going to happen for the 3 days. You need to be checking in, especially finding out when they're going to present, and then right before they present, you're going to reach out again, find out if you need to write up an addendum and increase an offer, change a term, whatever you got to do to keep yourself in the running. So with that being said, that brings us to point number 3, offer terms. Offer terms are critically important. Offer terms also adjust given the market. So what you would do in a buyer's market, you're not going to do in a seller's market. And there's several things that we do, we tweak in our offers to make it more appealing for sellers. One thing is earnest money deposit. It's put in the listing what the seller is requesting. Say, for example, they're asking for $6,000. A good way to have the seller notice your offer is to give them more. Rather than $5,000, give them $7,000, because it's one extra line item that the listing agent, when presenting all of those offers, is now going to mention about your property. Everybody else gave them $5,000. This offer here is giving you $7,000. We didn't ask them for $7,000. They voluntarily gave it to make their offer stronger. You can also offer to pay for some of the seller's closing costs. There's some HOA fees that you could pay. There's transfer tax. There's escrow fees. You can tweak any of those. And again, even if it's only a couple $100s, it's another line item that the listing agent is going to read to the seller and explain why your offer is better than another. Do you want to go over that from the listing side?
Yeah, and one of the big things that we're seeing right now, because there are so many offers on almost every listing, people are offering more than appraisal price. So if the buyers are making an offer that's above appraisal value, they're generally offering some form of a guarantee. So just kind of circle it back to what we were saying with making sure that the lender has really vetted through all of the options with the buyer, knowing if they've got some extra assets to work with, to be aggressive and offer above the asking price and above the appraisal value, more importantly, is huge. So that is something big that we're seeing right now.
Also, contingency timeframes. And that really loops back to the beginning when you're talking to your lender and setting up that strategy session. If your agent is in good communication with your lender, they should have a game plan on, okay, well, generally it's a negotiable term, but a due diligence period, okay, is generally 10 days. Well, let's shorten that up. Let's do 7 or 8. Again, another line item, and it makes it stronger for the seller. How about appraisal contingencies? Do we need 15 days? Can we shorten it up? Can we order it on a rush? Can we waive it all together? These are conversations that need to happen with the lender ahead of time. Also, loan contingencies. Can we get get rid of the loan contingency because the lender feels like it's, a solid, fully underwritten approval, then maybe we could do without that altogether. But shortening up those time frames on your contingencies is vitally important. Giving a guarantee on your appraisal value. If you think the home's going to appraise at 300 and you have 10,000 extra you could throw on it, well, tell them you'll give them 310 and you'll guarantee the extra 10,000. That strengthens it. You can also use what's called an escalation clause. Escalation clause is mainly built to keep you in the conversation. We could do a whole nother video on that, so be sure to check back in with us and we'll give a deeper dive into what that is exactly. But it keeps you in the conversation, so rather than just getting a rejection, you can have a further conversation as to what you're willing to bring your offer up to. Also, just condition-wise, let the seller know that you're willing to take the property as is. If you see that it's turnkey and you're not really expecting, a $40,000 repair, and it's going to be pretty minor, well, rather than paying, 10 grand above, it's, your repairs are probably going to be less than 10 grand anyways. Just tell them you buy the property as is. Anything that you could tweak in any of those terms to make your offer stronger is going to be beneficial. Also, again, looping back to close of escrow, knowing what close of escrow is preferred by the seller is huge. Any rent back, especially like Angela said, if you can give it to them free, that's a huge plus as well.
And really just minimizing those contingency timeframes, because the quicker we can get through those contingency timeframes, the more solid we are in the deal, where the seller feels comfortable that we are going to make it to the finish line, and then they can make their next steps. So.
Yep. And again, just leveraging those relationships. Once you've submitted that offer, stay on them, keep following up, figuring out if there's anything that you need to tweak with the offer to make it stronger.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which brings us to point number 5. Point number 5 is off-market deals. With the inventory shortage, finding properties that are not on the MLS where you don't have so many offers is huge. There's what's called wholesalers out there. Their whole job is to go find off-market deals and bring them to people that are the end buyer. And generally speaking, they get like a finder's fee for being a middleman for bringing that deal. But a lot of times you can find them where they're not as competitive because they're not getting full market exposure, and it ends up being a better deal for you as the buyer. So find an agent that has a network of wholesalers, or even other agents that may have other teams or brokerages that will let you know about properties that are going to come to the market soon, and maybe you could get your offer in before it even hits the market.
Yeah, and even on the, we do now have the ability to, through our MLS system, to put up listings that are coming soon. So they can stay in that status for about 30 days at most. But even if it's coming soon and there's no pictures or not a lot of data listed, reach out to the listing agent and say, hey, I know it's not going to be on the market till whatever date, but is there any way we can get in to take a look at it? Can you give us any feedback on what your seller's looking for? And really see if you can put a deal together before it even comes on market. So.
Absolutely. I think it's very important. All of these little tweaks, none of them are, giant impact items. They're all making a little bit difference. But if you can add all of them up, collectively, they make a huge difference. So hopefully you can get your offer accepted. So if you are in the market, thinking about getting in the market, or maybe you've already submitted 20 offers and you're not having any luck like most people in the market right now, please give us a call. We'd be happy to help.
Happy to help.